Pastor Stephen Smith. I'm with Christian Leadership Partners. We provide leadership solutions for both profit and nonprofit organizations through coaching, teaching, and mentoring. I encourage you to take a look at our website, christianleadershippartners.org. Hopefully you'll find some tools there that can help make the difference in not only your organization, but also in your leadership situations. You're also more than welcome to use any one of those assets to help develop the leaders underneath you. And that's ultimately what this is all about. What we wanted to do is provide you with a free 30-day coaching session that will allow you to be able to develop your leadership skills based off of the kings of Israel. Now, why would we do that? Well, there are three reasons, really. The first reason is that we can actually get a good picture of what good leadership looks like and what bad leadership looks like. Because if we can look at these pictures, then we know that we can adjust our own leadership styles based off of the things that we observe. So what we want to do then is we want to also take a look at the historical record. The historical record gives us an opportunity to be able to look back and see what their decisions were and what the results of those decisions were. So if we're looking at planning, preparation, or execution phase of anything that they did, we also have a record of every single thing that they did. So we want to make sure that we can do that as well. The third thing is we want to take a look at servant leadership. And at the end of this study, we'll take some time to be able to do that, even if we have to go past the 30-day mark. But what we want to do is we want to compare each of these different kings to Jesus Christ, who gives us the perfect model of what servant leadership is really all about. Because if you can use the servant leadership model, it'll actually help you to become the better leader that you know that you can be. So what we want to do is we want to take a look at 4 different kings today. Now, all 4 of these kings ruled less than 10 years, and most of them only about a month and a half. They went out and they killed their predecessor so that they could be king. So we'll see a common theme here as we read through each of these different kings, and we'll discuss the differences that they had, but every single one of them had one thing in common. Let's see if you can find out what that is. 2 Kings 15:8 and 9 says, Zechariah, son of Jeroboam II, began to rule over Israel in the 38th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 6 months. Zechariah did what was evil in the Lord's sight, as his ancestors had done. He refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. For every single one of these kings that we're going to take a look at, we're going to see that they made no difference in the nation of Israel whatsoever. What are you doing as a leader to become more of an effective leader? What we want to do is we want to make sure that we're not just changing things to change things, but if there's something that's not going right, or if the organization is failing, or if our teams aren't achieving their perfect purpose, we as leaders are responsible for that. So what we want to do is we want to identify these different leadership situations that we find ourselves in, and we want to start applying the technique called transformational leadership. Transformational leadership doesn't mean that I'm transforming myself to be what they need, although we can do that if we're flexible enough as leaders. But I can also transform my organization based off of the different things that I'm looking at. I have to make an assessment. I have to see where we're at, and then once I take that assessment and see where I'm at, then I can make a plan to make the difference in not only the organization's lives, but also the lives of those who are underneath me. Let's see what the Bible tells us about other things that we can see about how these kings led. 2 Kings 15:13 and 14 talks about the next king that came into power. His name was Shallum. Shallum, son of Jebus, began to rule over Israel in the 39th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. Shallum reigned in Samaria only 1 month. Then Mahanaim, son of Giddai, went to Samaria from Tisra and assassinated him, and he became the next king. What we can see here is that there's a lot of leaders trying to make a difference for themselves. They're going up and they're killing the person that's over them so that they can take over. Now, we're not going to do that as leaders, but a lot of times you'll see people that will cut the people's knees, stab them in the back so that they can get up to that next position. And why is that? Well, what we find is that a lot of leaders are trying to do things for their own benefit. You know, John Maxwell says that if you're at the top of the mountain all by yourself, you're not a leader, you're a mountain climber. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're leading not only because it's good for us, but it's because it's good for the organization. If you have the organization's goals in mind, if you have your team's goals in mind, if you have the individuals underneath you in mind, then what we can do is we can make sure that those needs are being met and the tasks that you're being set out to accomplish as a leader can actually be accomplished. So that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that we can identify these different things in the lives of the people underneath us and the people over us so that we can make a difference in their own lives rather than just trying to make the difference for ourselves. 2 Kings 15, 17, and 18 tells us this. Menahem, son of Gadi, began to rule over Israel in the 39th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 10 years. But Menahem did what was evil in the Lord's sight as well. During his reign, he refused to turn from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, that he had led the Israelites to commit. So what we can see is that their leadership of this nation never really got them out of the rut that they were in. And even though this king Menahem reigned for 10 years, we can see that he wasn't very successful at all. And in fact, Israel is starting to get smaller and smaller and smaller. We're going to get to a point here where Syria comes in and they attack Israel and they take everybody off. They take everybody out of Israel, and the only nation that's left is Judah itself. But we're going to see that even Menahem is losing such control that he extorted money from those people that he was ruling over. What are we doing as leaders with the finances of the people underneath us? Are we trying to make money for ourselves? Are we trying to come out and see if we can do things just for ourselves so that we can proceed, so that we can get promoted, so that we can make the difference and get all the glory for ourselves? This isn't about us as leaders. This is about us becoming better leaders for the organization. And that's really what we want to accomplish. 2 Kings 15:20 says that Menahem extorted the money from the rich of Israel, demanding that each of them pay 50 pieces of silver to the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria turned from attacking Israel and did not stay in the land. So we can see that he ended up paying off these other kings that are attacking him by extorting money from those underneath him. We want to make sure that we're not so focused on keeping our position of power that we're going to sacrifice the people underneath us. So we want to make sure that we're staying focused on the mission at hand and on the needs and the requirements of the organization and the people underneath us. Finally, we go to 2 Kings 15:23 and 24, and it says, Pekahiah, son of Menahem, began to rule over Israel in the 50th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 2 years. But Pekahiah did what was evil in the Lord's sight. He refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. Now, Pekahiah also gets assassinated, and if we had more time, we would look at his son, who goes in and actually makes a pact against Judah in the south, attacks the Israelites, grabs them as slaves, brings them back up to Israel, and he's rebuked for it. But what we really want to do is we want to focus on these negative leadership characteristics that kept them in the same rut. What is it that's keeping you as a leader in the same rut and keeping you from accomplishing your perfect purpose as a leader? We want to make sure that we identify those things so that we don't fall or fail as leaders. So let's take a look at these guys. We can see that there are no real successes that were recorded for any one of these four kings, and we can see that there were several failures. And in fact, they all had the same failure. And the first one is that they were never in position long enough to make a difference. We as leaders want to make sure that we're in positions long enough that we can make a difference to the people that are directly underneath us. If you're so focused on promotion and you get promoted so quickly that you're not influencing the people that you're put in charge of, then what good are you as a leader? None of them changed the way that they ruled. They did not change their leadership styles. We want to make sure that we're transformational enough so that we can be flexible to be able to change the leadership styles, to be able to meet the need, the situation, and the people underneath us. If we know that we can do that, then I know that we can also become that authoritative leader when it's needed, or we can be that gentle, caring servant leader when that's needed. But we got to make sure that we recognize this and that our subordinates don't think that we're just out there being bipolar or something. And then finally, we can see that they're all assassinated. So let's ask ourselves two specific questions that help us develop our leadership skills. The first question that we want to ask ourselves is, how important is loyalty within your organization? Are you really making sure that you're loyal to the people that are over you, or are you stabbing them in the back so that you can take their position? You have to recognize that if you're that focused on the people above you, guess what the people underneath you are learning? The exact same thing. So you want to watch your back if you're doing that kind of thing also. The second question that we have for ourselves is, how can you inspire loyalty within your team or your organization? By inspiring loyalty, we know that we're going to make sure that we have the support of those underneath us whenever we come to those difficult tasks. I really do encourage you to take these things, make a difference in the world that you're in today, and be the better leader that you know that you can be.